Good day, gentlemen. Let's be honest. You know that she's not the enemy, but you don't act like it. You have these thoughts that make her the enemy. And not only do you judge yourself for having these thoughts and for doing the actions that follow, for saying the words to her that follow, but she also feels this, of course, directly and indirectly. And it is slowly but surely destroying your relationship from the inside out. Because of course then she gets defensive instead of being as open and radiant as she once was. Why do I know all of this? Because I've been with my girl for actually almost 7 years. It's our 7-year anniversary tomorrow, which is mad. And I've struggled with this quite a bit myself during this relationship. But I've found ways to overcome it for good. And that's what I want to share with you today. So listen up, take this serious. Let's get right into this. So consciously we know that she's not the enemy, right? But subconsciously it's a whole different story because society, the internet especially these days, has brainwashed us into believing that women are the enemy, that all women cheat, all women are liars, all this bullshit, right? Now, here's the thing. We need to get rid of that conditioning. And the reason why I said in the title, just love her, is because when you love her, when you show love, when you essentially respond like a man does instead of reacting like a boy does, right? Boys react unconsciously. Men respond consciously. When you do that, even when she isn't as loving to you as you would want her to be, when you are loving to her, something very special happens. And by the way, because I know that you're already asking yourself, oh, but if I'm loving to her when she's not loving to me, am I not reinforcing? Like, am I not strengthening that thought of her, of like, oh, I should not be loving to him because then he's loving to me? No. We'll talk about that later on. But first and foremost, you have to understand that when you perform any action, let's say being loving to your woman in a moment where she might not be as loving to you, like, especially in those moments actually, what happens is your mind has to then justify those actions to itself to be in balance, essentially, right? Your mind, your brain has to always be in equilibrium, in balance. Equilibrium is a very, very difficult word. Equilibrium. I'm German. Don't judge me on my English. Anyway, no one has ever judged me on my English. Anyway, your brain needs to stay in balance. So whatever action you perform, your brain has to justify those actions to itself. Meaning, when you are not being loving to your woman, your brain will find reasons for why you shouldn't be loving to her next time and the next time after that. And you become less and less and less loving. But the more loving you are, the more you reinforce that, and the more your brain has to find reasons for why you should be loving to her. And guess what? If you're loving to someone, chances are pretty high they will be loving to you. Now, what I said earlier, let's go deeper on that. Boys react unconsciously, men respond consciously. The reason I say that is because there is something that this concept, which is not even a concept, like it's a very, very real thing, which is the fact that there is a gap, a short gap, between a stimulus, let's say your woman calling you some name, let's go like worst case scenario, she calls you an asshole or something like that, that's a stimulus, and there's a gap between that stimulus and your response. As long as you choose to respond, as long as you choose to use that gap and choose your response. Because what most men do, I shouldn't even say men because I don't consider that to be a man, I consider that to be at best a guy, they react. They shout back. They call her names. How does that help? And the crazy thing is, I read this about the gap between the stimulus and the response in one of the most impactful books that I've ever read, which was Man's Search for Meaning, which is a book where this Austrian psychologist, psychoanalyst, neurologist describes his experience of being held captive for years in Nazi concentration camps. And he learned that he can choose his response, that he can make use of that gap between stimulus and response. Eckhart Tolle is someone else who wrote about this. What's the famous book he wrote? The Power of Now, that's it. I'm always struggling with like German titles and English titles from books, but The Power of Now, that's the one. And so we need to make use of this gap. That's how we are loving to her. That's how we understand, that's how we make it conscious for ourselves. I can't snap with my left finger. Anyway. Nah, it doesn't work. Left finger, left hand, I mean. Anyway, when we don't make use of that gap, we can't be loving. Because that gap is there for us to understand, oh shit, she is not the enemy. She's just a bit emotional right now. She is going through stuff. She's stressed, whatever else. I shouldn't fight fire with fire. I should fight fire with water. In that sense, the water is love. But love, there's two parts to this. And that's what most men don't understand. Because most guys, again, I'm saying guys here very consciously because they're not men, they think that love is just always, how do I say this? Always doing whatever she wants you to do. Which is not true. That's not loving. There is zero integrity in that. She will lose trust in you. She will lose attraction to you. Which is very good, actually. Because it might help you wake up. Now, part one of being loving is best described with a quote by David Deida, the guy who wrote The Way of the Superior Man. Now I said guy, I should have said man, because David Deida definitely is a man. And he has this quote, which is, keep an open heart even if it hurts. And I would actually say keep an open heart especially when it hurts. That's the moment when we need to keep an open heart. And I don't just want you to forget about this lesson 5 minutes after you finished watching this video, so I want to tell you a story so that this actually sticks with you long enough until this becomes a habit for you, until you actually do this automatically, until this becomes your new like baseline essentially. And so this story is of an experience that I had recently. Because, as you can tell, there's the ocean behind me. I'm not in Germany, right? And I have a friend here. I came here last year. Haven't fully moved here or anything, but I'm here. And I have this friend here who 2.5 months ago, I know the exact date and everything because it was so heavy on me. He sends me a message on WhatsApp. Long ass message. Feels like a 14-year-old girl is breaking up with me. That's literally how it felt when he sent me that message. Calling me names, calling me a liar, calling me nasty things. I was like, what the fuck is happening? I thought this guy was a friend of mine. I keep very distant from people who involve themselves in drama because I don't need that in my life. This was the first time in years that something like this happened. And I was like, what the fuck is happening here, right? And it took me a couple hours to respond to this message, right? Again, gap between stimulus and response. I didn't react immediately because my first thought was like, who the fuck does he think he is? And I almost texted that to him. I also almost blocked him, which both of those are very fucking immature. And so at the end of the day, I sent him a message back, which was kind and loving, and it's in German, but the best way that I can translate it is, I never wanted anything bad for you. Take care. That was all I replied. And then, like a week ago, or 1.5 weeks ago, a guy texts me again. Of course, he didn't text back on that message, right? He texts me again and he's like, man, do you have time to pop on a quick phone call tomorrow? I was like, I was kind of protecting myself, right? And I was like, well, what is it about? And he said, I want to apologize. I was like, okay, I'll give him that opportunity, I'll give him that chance. And I quickly understood that this guy went through unimaginably traumatic stuff on the exact day where he sent me that message. And he also said the exact moment where I replied to his message in a loving and still I kept distant, but I was loving. I wasn't being an asshole. I wasn't reacting on his level, but I was responding consciously. In that very moment, he realized, fuck man, I made a mistake here. I just insulted on the very nastiest level. We're talking below the belt line, right? I don't know if that's an expression in English. It was a full kick in the nuts, I'll be honest. It took me out for a while, I'll be honest. It was nasty. And it took him over 2 months to actually build up the balls to actually apologize to me, which he did. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't stayed calm and loving in that moment. And the same exact thing is true for every other human relationship, especially romantic relationships, because they get so intense, because there's so much emotion involved. You won't get the best out of people by being nasty to them. That simply won't happen. You won't get the best out of your girlfriend by being nasty to her. Even if she was nasty to you, there's no point in shouting back at the exact same frequency. So that's way number 1 of being loving. Way number 2 is something that people don't want to hear. And it's setting boundaries. And it's setting boundaries for one very simple thing. For one very simple reason. Because most people set boundaries in the complete wrong way. A boundary isn't there to cut people off from you. A boundary, that's not it. A boundary is there so that you can take care of yourself for the one and only reason that you should ever be taking care of yourself, which is to have the energy and the love and the mental bandwidth to take care of others. A man takes care of others, takes responsibility of others, makes sure they're fine, takes care of them. And if you don't do that, if you don't have the strength and the integrity to set boundaries with your girlfriend and tell her when she's stepping over a line so that you don't get hurt, because man, if you get hurt, you resent her, you forget about choosing your response, you react unconsciously again, that doesn't help anyone. You need to take care of yourself to take care of others. And again, I want you to understand this point deeper, so I'll tell you a story that happened like a week ago in my relationship. My girl was in Germany, I was here, right? And we were talking on the phone. We had these long distance phases a lot over the last 1.5 years, or even longer, honestly. We've had those throughout the whole relationship. And I'm gonna make another video on long distance very shortly here because it's an important topic. Anyway, she was not feeling good. Let's just put it like that. And she was complaining on the phone. Complaining, but not taking my advice. Like neither taking my advice nor doing anything about the problem that she was complaining about. And so eventually I switched from giving her advice and telling her what to do to just humorously ignoring her. And I mean that in a very kind way, right? I wasn't being a dick. I wasn't invalidating her feelings. We have these inside jokes that every couple should have. If you don't have any inside jokes with your partner, what the fuck are you doing? Anyway, these inside jokes where we can always kind of crack each other's shells. When one of us is in a bad mood, we can crack their shell with one of those jokes because they're just funny as hell. Anyway, and no, I won't tell you those jokes. Fuck off. Anyway, I constantly made those jokes on the phone. I switched from one to the next until she just stopped complaining. Because she was disrupting my peace. And I don't like that. I want my peace. And even at the end of that phone call, she was complaining again about not having been able to let off any steam. About not having been able to vent out her feelings, whatever. And then I was again making jokes, whatever, right? And again, not invalidating her feelings. I was humorously disrupting her bad mood. And humorously showing her like, hey, you're not doing anything about this. And you're not taking my advice, so go solve it on your own way. Go solve it in your own way. On your own way, in your own way. I don't know. Again, I'm German. Anyway. This was in the evening, right? Next day in the morning, she sends me a long-ass voice note. She's like, hey, I'm sorry for yesterday evening. I don't know why I was in such a bad mood. I don't know why I was complaining, but I want to thank you for your advice, first of all, and also for not taking me too serious, not taking my bad mood too serious, not letting it get to you too much. And by the way, I've solved the problem and I'm happy now. This is what happens when you set boundaries. She solved her own problem. I didn't have to solve her problem. I wanted to. I gave her advice. I helped her, but she didn't want my advice in that moment. She wanted to solve it by herself, which is okay. And what would have happened if I had gone and not set a boundary and not told her, hey, Don't disrupt my peace here. I'm in a very good mood. Just because she's in a bad mood, this is a base, like, this just popped into my head, but this is such an important thing for you to realize. Holy shit. Just because she's in a bad mood Just because she's in a bad mood doesn't mean that you have to be in a bad mood. You can stay in a good mood while she's in a bad mood. That's okay. That's actually more helpful than you also being in a bad mood. How does that help anyone? Now, I want to read this quote to you, which puts this into very, very good perspective. And this is from the book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which are the 4 masculine archetypes, as you might know, might not know. Anyway, in this book, the authors say, the enemy for both sexes is not the other sex, but infantile grandiosity and the splitting of the self that results from it. Immaturity. That's the enemy of both sexes, not the other sex. Men are not the enemy of women, women are not the enemy of men. The enemy of both is immaturity. And immaturity comes from not looking at yourself. Look, men who become cold-hearted, men who become reactive, men who just shut down very easily, they usually blame this on other people for a good reason. Nobody becomes cold-hearted or shuts down easily just because that's their nature. That's no one's nature. So other people hurt you. Okay, we understand. Other people hurt me as well. Is that a reason to continue hurting other people? Is that a reason to keep this cycle going? Fuck no. I need to do my own work. I need to let go of this. And instead of playing the victim. Because I, in that sense, am a victim, and you are as well. But unless you let go of seeing yourself as a victim, other people will continue to see you as a victim too, and will continue treating you like one. It might not be your fault that you are here. It might not be your fault that it's tricky for you to consciously, lovingly respond or set boundaries with your woman. But it damn sure is your responsibility to make sure that you don't stay this person. Now, one final thing. If you want to take your relationship to that higher, deeper level, then I want to offer you my help. And I want to explain to you how you could literally be talking to me directly in a couple of hours. Because I've already helped a bunch of men who were in very similar situations to you, and I've helped them get to a point with their relationship where their woman is so open, so radiant, so loving, and they feel admired, desired, respected, and simply put, at peace. All of these men felt stuck. They felt like their relationship can never get better. They felt like their relationship was doomed to fail. And what I offered them was a free alignment call with me. This is not a free coaching call. My time is too limited for that these days. But it is a call where I discussed with these men what was actually holding the relationship back. And we figured out whether I could help them. And this is also what I want to offer to you now. But quick disclaimer, this is not for broke guys looking for some free advice. This is for men who are in a very stable financial position and who actually want to take the steps necessary to build the relationship they truly want. Now let's be honest here. You know that I can help you, otherwise you wouldn't be watching my videos. You didn't watch this video to just waste 20 minutes of your time. So you know that I can help you. And what you can do is you can click the link in the description of this video. Sometimes I can't talk. You can click the link in the description of this video and you can fill out the application form on that page. There's also a bunch of testimonials if you want to read one of those. But you can fill out the application on that page. It's like 5 questions, takes 2 minutes or something. And when your application looks like you qualify to work with me, then you can directly schedule an alignment call with me for free right then and there. Meaning you could literally be talking to me within a couple hours from now if my calendar is free. So go check that out right now, and maybe I'll see you in one of those alignment calls.